yeah, just thank you. Yeah, so I'll be talking to you today merely about some minute models, minute model methods, kind of quick ideas how to create, well, these kind of things, these structures for you. They're quite durable, as I've clearly just dropped, but they're able to, yeah, kind of show what you want to get out of your building, the kind of structure behind it, and so I'll just jump in really and explain what's on the screen here. So I think everyone on the screen can see that. That's fine. Yeah, that's fine. So these two models I created over summer of 2020. It's a summer we don't really talk about, but we've got here two models. One is not mine, the big sphere, big round thing on there. That is from Buckminster Fuller. I believe he's called it it's coined a Buckminster Fullerene. I might be butchering that, but about 20 letters long, nearly a whole alphabet. Yeah, so just kind of wanted to blow it up, see kind of how it would work, and then try and make my own concept, my own idea behind that. You can see on the left here, that is using all the same lengths, all the same materials, just kind of rotating it around, creating a different shape. Kind of looks like the number 10, which is quite handy because I've got 10 methods, recordings, and kind of materials that we'll be using for this. Just jump on to the next page here. Got a couple of models. These are ones that I've been doing over the last year. One we do have here, I'm quite surprised it has survived this long. So that's the leftmost design there. I used that for my third year. And you can kind of see where some of the inspiration came from for these future models. We've got it here on the front. I was just kind of designing my facade, glass jaggedy facade. And from that, I then went on to create these newer ideas, newer models. And they all come from the same sort of design idea, which is just quick cuts, small lengths put together, you make something bigger. They all use a lot more of their smaller components, such as this spiral here, all comprised of just parts of the cube, say parts of the cube, 3 edges, 90-degree angles. These are the minutes of the models. Each one of those is about a minute to make. They're actually minute modules, because once put together, create interesting structures like so. So this one, instead of drawing, I normally do draw models beforehand, get them kind of written down on paper to understand them. This one I actually designed in Minecraft because it's all in cubes, it's all in squares, and it helped me base this kind of structure around that, and then just putting them into place, connecting together. Just a quick kind of one to put together. I think there is about 56, maybe 60 modules in that. Each one took about a minute. So of course, the whole model itself took about an hour to cut and then another half an hour to put together and assemble. So hour and a half, you create something and you're not that invested, which is quite lucky because as soon as I finished photographing this, you see here behind, I've got a background, which is where I like to just kind of have a white background when I'm making the models. I didn't build it quite well, so it fell over and crushed it almost instantly. So I'm lucky I got the photos I did before that happened. But the whole idea is to create these smaller components, put them together, make a bigger model. That's what you kind of focus in on. You focus in on the small details and you build it up into a bigger building. So going on, it's not always smooth sailing. We've got failure after failure until you make a bit of progress. I wanted to try and make an arch where 2 of these sort of longer models intersected. My first attempt of it didn't go too well. Those planes are completely out. They're not pointing the right way. I figured that out halfway through building it. So that's why, you know, about 10, 15 minutes in, not too invested, move on to the next one. We've got the next one here, a lot bigger in its design. You can start to see the 2 branching paths. However, it wasn't as smooth, so I decided to kind of put a pin in that one again, not too invested, move on to the next, and then finally made some progress. It's a lot smoother. You can see where each one branches out and I'd like to say you could probably perform a push-up on it. Don't don't take my word for that. I wouldn't want to give an example either, because I did end up impaling myself. It's not too too pretty for you guys to clean up, but we'll move on here. It didn't start as a kind of clean design. There's a lot of prototyping before that, so there's lots of materials you can use. I've used here clay, plasticine, and blue tack. But the worst thing about these is the price. It's quite expensive to buy these in bulk, which is why just bamboo and glue probably the best kind of idea behind these concepts. I think you can get a kilogram of clay for about £4, a kilogram of plasticine for £5, a kilogram of blue tack will cost you, I'll set you back up £50. So yeah, not a great modeling material for anyone wanting to move into those kind of ideas. But number one out of the 10, we have structures. This is really all that I use. Bamboo skewers, you get them for £1, 100, that's a penny a skewer. You know, you're going to be able to create quite a lot out of that. Same hot glue, you're able to buy that in bulk, it's quite cheap. So it's not really going to set you back if your idea doesn't go to plan. You can keep prototyping, keep reusing these ideas. Again, scalpel, pencil, hot glue gun, cutting mat. It's really basic stuff. You probably all have this at home anyway, so there's nothing stopping you from just going down to Tesco, picking yourself up some skewers and just starting. I'm not sure, I think people can see me on this screen? Yeah, so I have here, really basic, I know, it's just a cuboid structure out of the bamboo, 10-15 minutes to make. Again, not that interesting, but I'll get to that a little bit later. Very basic model, 10-15 minutes, not too much to say there. We have the areas and floor levels. So you see on Pinterest and Instagram, you have all these all these floor plans, really nicely set out. Hardly see any structure in it. They're just floating floors. So I decided to try and make my own version of that, just using some string. You've got needles at home. You've got what's that? The card, obviously, at home. You put that out. You pop your floor plans on that. Quite versatile. You'll be able to set it out. Do what I'm doing here. Photoshop your floor plans or print them off beforehand to put them on. You can create quite interesting models there. Again, not that interesting. Get to that later. Moving on, we've got volumes here as well. So this on the left here is from my second year massing project for, I believe, the housing project that you still might be doing, you might have delved into, or something similar, but that's what I was doing in my second year. We've got just foam, again, really cheap, easy material just to cut into. I think you've got the wire cutter over there in the studio, so if any of you are familiar with that. Yeah, it's very quick, very easy to cut into that. And we've got, yeah, you can bring it over. Oh, the material and the wire cutter, that's all good. And then again, volumes just to keep very basic, but it's quick to put together, and it leads me on to my next example, which is the envelopes for your buildings. This, it's just flat. It's 5 minutes to make. Bit of tape, a bit of card put together, creates a nice little envelope for your building. Individually, these models aren't that interesting, but when you do put them together, you can start to create bigger, more interesting models, kind of like that. You can drop this all the way through. So you then have your structure and your floors, which slot in together like so. I don't know how it's coming across on the screen there. And so you've got your structure, you've got the floors, you've then got your envelope that will just slide on top. And you've got the concept of maybe your tower block that you're building, you'll have your floor plans on there as well. And again, I think all in all, maybe an hour to produce all this, not that invested. So if it's not what you wanted, you can go again, you can try again, you can make a more, well, I hope you make more interesting models than just a standard tower block with 4 floors, probably double, triple height space, not that efficient there. And then some examples of previous designs of envelopes, which again, just use card. The top one was using card foam and then pins just to fasten them to the floors, which then gives you an idea of what you can use and where you can use it and where you need to kind of put in this structure to hold everything up. So they're the model concepts. They're very quick, very fast, all cheap material. So again, I keep reiterating this, but you're not too invested. If the idea goes south, you start again, you can reuse these things and keep going. So I'll go on to recordings now, and this is the idea of perspective photography, I suppose, where you use your models that you create, you put them into context, you photograph them in context, photograph them and Photoshop them, together, and you can create from what is here, just my hand holding this model out, eventually became this kind of experimental structure or model on a roundabout. The idea behind this was it's just connections, roundabouts connection, the whole reason why I popped it on there. Not too interesting, but again, you can just make these really quickly. And there's a quite interesting artist who will go around all over and just take these little card cutouts of, well, you've got the Lego man, the penguin, and the Statue of Liberty pumping some iron. And you can create some interesting structures that aren't there physically, but you can perceive them in the right perspective, and you can take your design and start adding them onto any buildings you might be making, or you can see your building in context. Just a quick, cheap way. If you're not too versed in Photoshop, it just helps. I was never too versed in Photoshop when I started, so these kinds of ideas, they really helped me to visualize what I was eventually going to be doing. So yeah, that's quite fast. The shadows here, you want to see kind of how your building will cast shadows onto the context around you. This one is more conceptual, it's more experimental. I was really just playing around with these, and I found that at certain angles you could project flat pane of what the structure would look like, which is on the left here. And on the right, quite interesting there, I got bored of making that model. I wanted to make an arch, I got about halfway through, and you see on the left here, it just didn't get the angle that I wanted, so I wanted to move on as quickly as I could. There's no copy and paste function in real life, but there is a use of shadow, so that is the whole reason why the arch came out on the left, looking like that. Again, with reflections, there's no Photoshop here, this is all one model. I just wanted to see how this would look if I doubled it up, made it more complex. So I put a mirror out on the floor, placed it on top, just started taking photographs and seeing what come of it. We've got the original model here on the grass with the mirror as well, just to kind of get to grips with what angle I wanted, how I wanted to present it. Again, this is just an experiment, taking lots of photos when you do make your models. They come in handy. I never knew I'd be doing a presentation on this, so it's quite handy that I did take these photos and take these models and be able to produce them into what they are now. Again, the backgrounds of your models, white backgrounds, they're great. You can use that, cut them out, and then use them in whichever Photoshop program you want to be using them, maybe InDesign, whichever floats your boat, really. Great to draw as well, so you'll be able to record them from the photo and kind of put them out into your work. And then choosing the backgrounds here, I wanted to diverse a bit. I didn't really know what backgrounds to choose for these. So I was thinking more urban, green spaces, those kind of areas. And these are the models that came of that. So now we're getting into the, I suppose these are the mediums of how you can design. Virtually, we all have computers, obviously. We're surrounded by them now. These are all designed in virtual reality. I've got the one on the left here, which is for my dissertation, just kind of conceptualizing the idea behind these kinds of models I've got here. So that one, that was just me playing around maybe about 2 years ago to see what Tilt Brush, which is the program I was designing it in, could do. Very quick, very fast. You can draw in 3D space, so your model starts to materialize quite literally in front of your eyes. And then a model here we've got, which is just another aspect of that, where we're getting a bit more complex now, trying to link them up, trying to standardize them as well, like we've got with this model here. I want to get to a point where each module consists of the same amount of pieces and units. So there's no cutting unique lengths. You saw in the start with the progression, had the failed attempts and then finally got to a more standardized unit. You do want to try and standardize your models, and you don't want to be spending all your time cutting unique shapes, and you want to try and get to a point where you can bish bash bosh, get these out, get these pieces and put them together. So with this one here, there's only 6 unique lengths within this, 1 for the pentagon on the bases and through all the way through, and then 6 for the angle to create and then stack them up and make this supposed helix spiral shape. These on their own aren't models that you would see in architecture, but potentially you could. These are more showing you what you could be making. I don't know if you wanted to try and design a building that stood like this. You could, but the engineers would have an absolute field day picking apart and saying, well, you can't do it, as, you know, spirally building, not too good. And then the final idea obviously goes back to roots and goes back to what I know best, which is drawing. You want to keep drawing your ideas. It helps you to visualize them, push them out, and create these kind of unique works. You can see right at the start, I was just putting these ideas, putting these connections together, eventually forming what was the arch that you saw at the start. You can kind of see in the middle here where that model got to. It's now like in the inventory of stuff that can be done, I know can be done. So I'm now expanding that and seeing what I can put into that, how I can move it about and kind of use it in a larger context. And yeah, finally, you want to take your drawings from the page into physical models. You want to be able to draw what you can make and make what you can draw. And that kind of relationship between these two mediums is just a great way of pushing your work forward, keep developing your ideas. Because whatever you draw, sometimes it doesn't work. You don't find out until you start to build it. And then vice versa, you can start really building up deeper understanding of these models and these ideas that you have and what to pursue. I've kept this rather quick. It is the end of the day, obviously. I know you're all tired and work quite hard, but that's pretty much to the end of it. And any questions, if at all?
Yeah, so what kind of materials do you prefer using when you do model making?
Preferably quick and easy to cut. So your card, your paper, your tape, all quite common materials, because they can then be translated into further ideas. So you create a flat pane for a wall. You then know that you need to kind of specify what this wall will be. Maybe it will be a flat panel, wavy panel, corrugated kind of steel. You can then start building that up. And once you just start with a wall, you can then kind of expand upon it, and kind of dive deeper into what you want this to be, how it all connects. And going forward, really, these models, they come together, they stand up and they work. And once you know that, you can then start to really understand what you're trying to produce, what you're then getting into, and what you need to do to make it work. Because there's going to be tons of problems that you come into it. You could keep drawing a model, keep making it the best you can. There's always going to be more problems. That's what architects are for. They're able to identify these problems, build out, and then make the amazing building that you want to make. So the kind of materials, yeah, I just start with really basic ones, and then you can expand upon them. Like here, they're all basic, simple materials, quite single sheets, but then putting them together, you can start to differentiate what is within the model and what you can then go on and kind of photograph it, put it onto your editing software, and then just jump into the real details. You go over, you make the structural model, you say what is in it, how it works, and then you can really go from there.
You can ask a question about the lighting, because at the end of the model, we have to get a specific light to present the model.
Yes.
So background sheet and the way how we put the lights in, because might using the sunlight,
yes,
or we might like using the projector lights. So which one you prefer for us, like to present the final model? Which light we can use, the photography light or the sunlight?
That's a good question. I prefer setting up my own lighting source, trying to get it into what you say, the angle of the sun in that particular area and time of the day. And once you do have that, you just find the prettiest position. You want to try and show your model off in the best light. And even if you're picking a specific time of the day, that's fine because that's what it will be in reality. But you want to try and get a lot of different times as well. So you can kind of see, well, it looks great at this time of the day, but come 4 o'clock, shrouded in the shadow, it might not be the best, or maybe that's what you want. If it's a particularly hot climate, you want to be shading your building quite often, like passive heating, all that jazz, and being able to bring that and show that in your designs.
So in the night time, for example, what kind of light we can put, because we have to present the models in the night time, and we have to present as well in the daytime. I mean, like, how we can put a light inside the model. So we use like specific lights. I just want to get ideas about like what kind of light we can use in the model. Of
course. So I think the best idea behind that, I'm no electrician myself. I look at circuits and I go, I don't know about that. But if you can manipulate little fairy lights, again, you can get that from the pound store for £1 a roll, maybe 2 meters. You can start then putting them into strategic positions. Maybe you are hiding all the wiring, but that's not your job to do all the wiring. It's your job to maybe focus on where the lights can go within the building. So you want to put them in the strategic positions, hide the wires, obviously, because you're not going to walk into a building, it's going to be a jumble of wires. But if it's for a particular position of your building or an angle you're taking a photo of, hide those, use those, and give your building that kind of evening glow that you're looking for. It's the best way to go about it. If you're like me and don't know anything about.
They use that Lightroom, Adobe Photoshop. So my drive the models there and we edit the light in.
Oh,
so,
okay.
Yeah. We could do that as a trick, like rather than like what
I suppose if there is ways, and if you do know ways to use Photoshop to get to that point, by all means, go for it. It might be a bit long-winded to go and use those fairy lights, like I was saying, but at the end of the day, whichever works for you best, because it's all about time management, really. This kind of role you're looking to fulfill. If you can do it fast on the computer, go for it. If you can do it fast with fairy lights and still get the desired result, then at the end of the day, you've spent half an hour doing something you know instead of 2 hours trying to figure out something you don't know. If you've got the time to do that, which I suppose you are at university at the moment, you do have the time here to learn that. Ask your colleagues if one of you is more versed in the physical ideas of models, talk to them. If someone knows how to do it in 5 minutes on the computer, talk to them. Just, exchange, because at the end of the day, Catherine says it best.
Ideas, because I've seen some models, they use the small lights, like the small bulb lights, and they plug inside the buildings, like to show the lights in the night time.
Yeah.
So it's a good idea, like to use it in the dark.
No, of course. Yeah. And again, it's all about the presentation of your models in that particular time of night. Yeah. If you can make it work and make it look good, by all means go for it. And then there's where the light's going to be, this is how it's going to look. And you can let the electricians figure it out if you've left them enough space to do so.
Thank you.
I also do this with this kind of model, but I need a bird, a building inspired by a bird, basically. But my problem was I kept on cutting it because I needed certain different sizes, and I had to do it with scissors, and my hand was swollen because I kept on cutting and cutting. So what is the best way to cut it without?
I do have that here. So I do have a scalpel with me, a recent investment with quite a curved handle, quite nice to hold. I was previously using the scalpels provided. You can get them in the arts and crafts store. They're quite thin, quite narrow. And again, I would notice that after a few, maybe hour of cutting, you do get the sore hands. It's really just what you prefer, what you know. Me personally, curved knives are the best to do that with. Curved handles, should I say, more like curved handles that you can hold and use. And there are other methods. I believe there's quite large knives you can use, which are specific for cutting bamboo. If you are using that material, just do a little bit of research. It's all down to preference. If you can pick up something that you can just cheap, you can try it out. If you like it, you can then invest into a further tool that you know, oh, I like this one better than this one. You're able to then go off and progress with that idea.
So just using that thing.
Yeah.
Not, blade.
Yeah, blades I prefer to use. I have a bit more control over blades. When I was identifying what to cut this bamboo with, I was using pliers as well. So the wire cutters where you've got the sharp in between, cutting those, it just wasn't getting a clean enough cut. I found that with scissors as well, the cuts could be a little bit off, and then I couldn't measure them to the kind of lengths that I needed. With the scalpel with blades, you get a lot more precision because you're there, you're cutting. It's a very fine line that you're cutting to, and you'll be able to get the desired length.
Yeah, sorry.
Oh, sorry.
Is there a vertical motion that you cut in? Because I'm really bad at it. Like, I mean, there should be some because it gets stuck in.
With the bamboo, I like to roll it as I cut. So with that, it kind of slices through quite nicely. You get that. You do one quick all the way around. So you roll it all the way around. You get a nice little indent, which you can then slice through and cut.
Like in a cardboard, you use it once, twice time, and then the third time you can cut it.
You can score it, yeah.
The question is about the glue, because I found, the what's it called, BFA glue. It's quite like tricky. I have to hold the model, so I use the glue gun.
Yeah.
The glue gun is easy, but we like, you can see it is around the cardboard. So which glue you prefer?
I prefer using glue guns for if what you're saying is to connect two bits of cardboard together. I prefer glue guns. I do use scrap bits to then kind of aid where that's going. So I'll put two up against each other at 90-degree angle. I then get a bit of scrap cardboard which I put along, and then it creates a little gutter for the glue gun just to sit into. Score it along, and then you hold it in, take it away before the scrap bit.
So when you glue it inside, not outside.
I tried to glue it inside, trying to keep the exterior quite flush. I suppose it's the same with the envelope here. Don't know if you can see inside. Originally,
it's inside. Oh, no,
it's all inside. It's 5 minutes. It's really. We can make another one in a second if you'd like. I start with it flat.
Yeah.
I try and make my models in this kind of net design, so that when all the pieces are in place, you can focus on getting the nice straight edges in a flat model, and then eventually, once you do have all these miniature modules put together, you can just slowly bring it round and create it into, well, put it on the edge there. You can then put it back to what the desired shape. And again, it might take a little bit of practice to get to that point. Like I said, I've been doing these models now for about a year, and then before that, even just kind of coming up with your own methods, because that's the whole idea. I could talk to you all day. This isn't new science. This isn't anything groundbreaking. It's just how you do it and your kind of own method behind it. So I just hope by presenting these ideas, I'm able to just inspire new ways of putting these together, kind of bringing models from the ground up, really, the page up. Yeah.
How do you work with the scale when you're making models? Because it's very important you do the scale.
Yeah, sure.
Of course. So originally, I couldn't focus to a scale. That's blasphemy, I know. You work around how you want to build it. You get the practice models first, and then you can start to measure it and bring it down. If you use, like I say, these quicker prototypes, you can then get these modules how you want them, size them down, and then start building them up. Again, it's completely out of scale, but in the context of an example, it works. You can hand this over. This is my idea. Okay, brilliant. Now make it work in your design. You can then start to play around with it. You just need to create your model first, create your idea to be able to say, this is what I want to do. And then you just need someone to say, yeah, do it. And then you bring it down, you bring it into how you want it to fit into your context, because these are built completely without context. These, like I say, just proof of concepts. You want to be able to have your kind of example models over here. I see them all around. You have your context models, which you can then put your ideas into. If you can work to that scale originally, brilliant. If you just want to play around with how you're going to be designing this idea, then, like I say, just bring it off the paper first. Maybe you're measuring it on the paper and then bringing it up, and having a look, going, that doesn't really work. I need to go back to the drawing board. You don't really need to go back to the drawing board. You just need to go back to the numbers. Your idea's there. That's the starting point. It's not going to be right the first time. So what I'm saying is, don't get too attached to your first models, like ripping that one up there. You want to create these ideas in minutes. And I suppose minute models, I'm not actually telling you to build models in minutes. They would, well, look like that. But you get the concept in minutes. You spend the minutes to refine the concept. And then once you get around to your final model, you know exactly how big you want it, what the pieces are to create it and make it a much bigger concept, a much bigger idea. So yeah, I would say if you're just practicing first, just take 5 minutes and try and build it, see what you can make. If it's not working, maybe you need to downsize it. Right at the start, those models, they were huge. They weren't, I just wanted to blow them up and see kind of the connections and use these huge pieces to make huge models. So yeah, scale is important, but not when you're playing around with ideas. You just need to make those ideas work, and then you can downscale them or upscale them depending on how you want to use them.
How do you get the angles right when you're gluing two pieces together? Because I've noticed as the adhesive dries, my materials start to float apart.
Yeah, so I like to make pretty models. So set squares, or again, I've got a little cardboard thing here, set angles 90 degrees. You can then kind of angle them up onto these smaller models. Again, these ones are really basic, the basic shapes, so they're quite easy to draw out, plan out, and then put together, and then you can start using them to guide your models, put them together. Again, minutes to make, quite durable. I think this one was a second-year model that's lasted me quite well, but I do use it in future models as well. Yeah, I like to try and make these smaller models that I know work. I know the angles to, like flat edges, kind of like a 3D set square almost, that you can then use in future ideas.
Yeah, I also did draw it in the paper and then paste it on top to keep checking this on. Yeah, my own way, like you said, find a comfortable way to do it.
Going back to, that's right at the start, going back to these ones here, I would use tracing paper and then layer them up to see how my idea would fare in that way. And from that point, I would then lift them up, kind of try to measure the angles between, and then I know roughly where I would need to go. Sometimes I would just use, with this model here, I'd get the module down, I believe it's a 30-35 degree slope. Once I get that, I then can measure each of the pieces here, and I know for each one going up, they'll produce the same angle, the same kind of position, and get that nice spiral that I was looking for, this one.
Do we have any questions online? Maybe you can just ask.
See, I might be coming through.
Sorry. Oh. Yeah. Maybe you want to ask them.
Is there any questions on Zoom at all? I want to see any questions if people are typing or talking.
Was it muted? Yeah.
I have a question, Ryan.
Of course.
I have a question. In fact, it's a bit weird, isn't it? Speaking with somebody, forgotten how to start my video. Yeah. Hello. It's really good to see you.
Hi there. Good to see you too. It's been a while.
I know, brilliant. It's folks, Ryan is one of our graduates, and so it's just really great to see this self-generated thing just happening. I would like to know what materials you're looking at the moment.
Yes, so leading into these bamboo structures, I've kind of looked at 3D printing connections. So there's a software called Tinker where you can use this modeling software. I believe it's quite small bits of filament which go in the 3D printer to then produce these connections that I'm putting together. From that, I could scale it up, maybe if I'll be using PVC to then slot them in together at a much bigger scale. It's all about getting something that works and then upscaling it to the materials that you know and you understand. You can then produce something at a bigger scale, like you were saying. With the PVC, I can make bigger, thicker models and be able to produce this at a much larger scale than what it is now. Maybe a whole room, maybe a pavilion, which is a curvy roof. I don't know. It's all in the pipework, really. It's all to be worked with and played with, and there's really a lot you can do. Sky's the limit with this kind of thing. Once you get something that works, you can then start to look at more materials. Bamboo, it's just the starting. It's what I know, but it's just the starting point. So going on to, like I'm saying, PVC, sky's the limit. You can use lots of different materials depending on how you want to produce your models.
Yeah, definitely. I'll drop you an email. I have some ideas. But when you mentioned pavilion, when I was watching your lecture, I thought I really need to go and make like a whole inhabited structure somewhere.
Well, speaking of that, I came in through Coventry train station. They've got that visitor centre now, which is just on the outside of it. Which I sat there for a minute, just kind of taking it and thinking, I'd like to do something like that. Maybe I think it's mesh geometric shapes and then bits of flashing holding it all together. It looks great. If anyone is in the area can see it, go down, have a little look. Quite interesting, but yeah, I think it would be fun to produce these things.
Sure thing. Yeah, I'll drop you a line with ideas. But thanks, right. And the other thing I thought was brilliant is that you kept mentioning prototyping, and you talked about the cost and the time. So the logistics. Students are saying make an angle. What kind of knife do you use? All that information is really cultural experience. So
just making models to make more models. If you try and make a final model, you know, at the start, it doesn't really make sense. You can't kind of model with a starting model. You've got to start something first to then build it up and get to that end point. Drawings aren't done in a day. They come back and forth. There's a lot of discourse between the architect, the designer, the engineer. If all the architects built everything, drawings to be reviewed or to go to an engineer to say this work, understanding of it, you make it work to the best of your ability, and then you get a second opinion. You kind of bring out the middleman with these minute models, get your second opinion. Yeah, you use models to make
brilliant, really good. Really, I can see there's been a lot of thinking since the last time we spoke. I'll be in touch.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ryan.
Oh.
Wait, yeah, there you go. Okay.
Feel free to ask questions. That's right. If anyone wants to type a question, I'll be happy to answer. But extent my talk, I'm happy to stay in chat. And if you do have any questions you think later, you can always reach me, Ryan.jr, small name, simple name, easy to do. They have my Instagram, so if you do have any questions later on, feel free, just drop me a message. I'm quite easy to contact, so it's absolutely fine. No issue helping anyone with any questions. But if that is it, I'd like to just say thank you for coming. It's been a pleasure to come back, and it's been interesting to chat with you all.
Thank you.
Cheers. No problem at all.
Thank you, Ryan.
My pleasure.
Thank you so much.
I might actually start.
Cheers, Alex. Thank you.
Yeah, I was actually wondering how I could do my pedestrian, understand how I could lift it off the ground to elevate it. So today I thought that I have bamboo sticks, luckily.
Brilliant.
So I'm going to start with it today. Thank you.
Definitely. Yeah, no, it just takes a couple of minutes to try a few things. And yeah, if there's no time invested, no big lengths of time invested, then if it doesn't work out, next time just to try and move something else, go on to something else. But yeah, thank you all. It's been a pleasure.